Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to show you how to create a Active Directory on Jobskillshare sandbox. Basically, this is for our members who are taking the technical course and they don't have the equipment and they're still using practice labs and they are finishing the labs in that environment, but then we have a project that requires a little bit more time to finish things. And if you have your VirtualBox, that's great. If you don't, you can use our JSS servers. The techniques that I'm going to be showing you today can work on VirtualBox as well. You can type Jobskillshare VirtualBox. We have created a video on that, and you can actually watch the video today and actually do the same things if you have ESXi or if you have a different type of virtualization. It should work because most of these settings can be implemented in different virtualization as well. So let's go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do today is we have a virtual environment, which is a ESXi, and that is your server. Let's say you have 16 GB RAM in this server, so we're just going to call like R, and then you have a 250 GB space, so we're going to do 200 and put space in there. So that's kind of like your whole environment in this access that you get from us. It's a link. You just click on connect here, and I'm going to show you that in a second. So what you're trying to do or here, you want to create a lab in this environment. So what do you currently have? We have a 2019 server ISO already downloaded into this platform. So you have that, and you have Windows 10 ISO. Okay, so these are installation files. Right now, without Active Directory, these are just workgroup machines. They're not even set up fully, so this means they're not managed. So you will have to turn on the Windows Server operating system. So you turn it on, you turn this one on. There will be another one too, the second one, Windows 10 again, and you can turn that on. But at this point, they're not managed. So what's your goal from this lab? You need to create an Active Directory environment. So you will install Active Directory on this server first. Once you install that Active Directory, that will give you some kind of skills, hands-on skills that, okay, that's how people create Active Directory. And since you have access to the server for 4 days, then you can really play around with the server settings as well, Active Directory, anything that you see more on YouTube, you can actually use that. And then what you will do is you will connect this Windows 10 machine to the Active Directory, both of these machines to the Active Directory, and that's where then you can follow along with some of the lab courses that we have done on YouTube. There are certain things that you can you're actually doing as a premium member in our practice lab environment. And then if you want to replicate it here, that's great, because now you're learning a little bit more skills because you're doing it yourself now. There's not guided anymore. So you have a clean environment where you can just come and play around. So that's going to be my main goal of this video, but I'm going to show you two things. One is Active Directory through GUI method, and another one will be to PowerShell. So I'm going to show you GUI and PowerShell. The PowerShell is very important because sometimes you work on Active Directory and you feel like, okay, you know what, I want to reset it, but I want to Active Directory back again. I don't want to go through this whole clicking again. So I'm going to show you these two things to make it easy for you to do this lab. So let's get started with the lab. So the first thing you need to do, let's go ahead and clear this up. It's a little tricky here. All right, so we're going to clear this up, and then the first thing we need to do in your lab when you get access from us, you're going to click on connect. So when you click on connect, you have certain information, certain settings here that you want to do to make it better for yourself. All right, so the first thing you want to do in this environment is to connect here. Click on connect here. It's going to connect you to our ESXi environment. And now you see that this is a controller machine, which is your main machine to access ESXi, right? So the information is right here. The username and password is given in your text right here. And this is the link that will take you to your lab. Now you are not supposed to restart this machine, shut down this machine, or do anything with this machine because that's your controller. You don't want to mess this controller up. If you do that, then of course you have to contact support, and it can take a long time for support to respond and things like that. Of course, if you don't want to do that, make sure you don't touch this machine, and just that's kind of like your connection machine. And here on the right side, you have this settings option. So when you click on it, you want to make sure that you make it 60%. And make it fast. So if you have a good internet connection, you should really use this settings. So now you have everything ready. You have on the bottom here all control delete, send option, type option if you feel like you found something in your own script or something that you want to run. Of course, we don't allow any security stuff on these machines, so if you do that, of course your lab will be immediately disconnected. Here you have different type of settings here. Rotate the screen, and you want to use this little icon on the right side, toggle view mode. If you do that, you see how I'm changing the screen. So feel free to use this to whichever makes it makes it easy for you to actually use. For me, this one is pretty good because I can see clearly. If I need a little bigger, I can go for all full screen like that. Okay, so if I click on login VMware ESXi, what's going to happen is going to open our ESXi environment, and that's where I am going to implement Active Directory for you in a GUI method first. So when you click on it, you're going to get this connection thing, because now it's local. You don't need to worry about any security because this whole settings is encrypted from the main site. So this is local stuff. It's not your private connection, so don't worry about it. So we're going to go ahead and click on advance and proceed. That usually happens once in your lab environment. So here you're going to type root and password, which is on your desktop in this machine right here. You're going to do that, and we're going to type that in there. So there you go. I typed my username and password, and this will let me into our ESXi environment. And there you go. So we have 3 machines running in this environment: server, Windows 10 1, Windows 10 2, and you can see that's your whole 16 GB space in this environment, and you have quite enough space to really play around with this local settings for help desk type of skills that we're teaching you in our technical course. So the first thing you would like to do is to click on the virtual machines. They should be turned on like this, but if not, you should click on it and then turn it on like power on right here. You can see that each machine will come with an initial configuration. This means nothing is configured. So we want you to learn the things from scratch, but still installing a operating system is something that you have seen multiple times, and then that just takes more time. So we want to make it easy for you. Now, if you do want to install this again yourself, then simply go back to virtual machine, create, click next, give your machine a name, and then here you're going to click Windows. We are installing server, so you're going to pick server. Even though they have 2022, we're going to pick 2019, and we're going to click next here. So this is where you are going to see information, but you can see the size of the disk matters because we already did that work for you. So if you want to install something like that, like 30 will work for extra server. So here you would want to make sure that its memory is correct, all this stuff, make sure it's thin provisioned, and then you can click on the ISO, which is right here, and these 2 ISOs are already there. So if it was a server, you will just click this, next, and then after that, you're back to the same information that we have given to you. But we have done the installation for you now, so you don't need to do this step. It just takes more time. We're going to delete this. Okay, so back to the server, and that's how you're going to configure the server from the scratch. So that this time you have to invest that time to start that process. And when you start this process and start creating your own accounts and everything, we will not be able to support you. The best way you can support yourself is to take snapshots. So if you do something for 1 hour or 30 minutes or something like that, and you feel like there's a chance to that this setting will be messed up, so right click here, go to snapshot and take a snapshot. You don't want to be taking snapshot every second step because of course you're going to run out of space then. So you're going to click next here and accept the agreement, and let's give it a password, and then click on finish. So now we're going to go ahead and log into the server by actions, guest OS, send keys, all control delete. So now we are logged into the server. So the first thing I recommend you should do, you don't have to do this step, but I will have to do this because it's important. You want to update the updates on this server. Sometimes if you don't do that and there's some kind of domain services that you want to install and things like that, then you may have issues, but it's not a hard requirement. So let's go ahead and click on updates. Now you see, this is where another suggestion that I will give a tip for a lot of people, that if I type updates, or if I type, let's say, firewall, it's not coming up. This is because we just created this for the first time and the server is still doing its thing. The recommended step over here now, before you do any updates, to restart the server one more time. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we're gonna go to actions again, Alt Control Delete, log in. Oops. So now you can see the server is up and running again. So here I can go back to updates, and now you see the update is working. It's gonna go out there. So that's the first thing. Let's just do that. We're gonna click on updates. Again, this is going to take time, and that's why you have that this is a reason for you to have a long-term access for 4 days, not like a session time of access. So then you can do these things and come back after you get tired. So let's go ahead and click check updates. And that's how in a real world environment, every time you install a server, operating system, any application, you really want to run the updates, because that's where you're going to get that new updates, and if it has some features that are been updated. So we can see there's a pretty big update right here. This will definitely take time. 809. So if you check, this server is on which version? It is on 809, so that's a good thing. So this means that it's not going to take too much time. It's just going to be a kind of like small updates, but still it may be something that may lead to a little bigger updates. But 809, we're in 809, that's good. So let's go ahead and wait for that updates to finish up. And if you want to go back, just go back to the updates again just to see where it is. So it's pending on updates right now. So once this is all finished, we're going to come back again and we'll take a snapshot, because that's where then I don't want to invest too much time again if I had to do this. So we're going to do some changes and then you will take a snapshot. So once you get an image from us, which is of course a less up-to-date version of when it was created, then you have your own image which is more up-to-date, and you get to understand how snapshot works. This type of skills are very important for you to do these things hands-on. It just gives you that real-world skills, because that's what we as an IT professionals do to make our job easy, and to make sure, not for just that, is to make sure systems are protected and things are happening faster. So again, be patient with this process. As you can see, the bigger update finished in about 20 minutes, and the rest of the updates are still happening. So again, a reminder, you really don't need this if you are just doing the basic Active Directory stuff, but we just don't know with updates, things are changing, so something can break if you're doing this. So I recommend doing this, but if you don't have time to wait for this long, then just go ahead and skip this part. All right, so once the updates are done, just click on restart, and then we'll come back again when everything is fully restarted. All right, so now we are going to do some server setup. So let's log in, and we're going to go guest OS, Alt Control Delete, and we're going to log into this server. As you can see, when there's no domain controllers, no domain services running on a server, it's very fast. And I'm going to prove it to you that when you have a lot of things installed, services, and things are working behind the scene, then systems will become slower. And that's why a lot of people don't mess with domain controllers, because it's already had a lot of services running in it. Firewall. Now in a real world environment, you will definitely keep your server very secure. When it comes to security in our lab environment, we don't want that, because we want to learn skills for help desk, and later on you'll come to security again. So go to firewall, turn off these, turn both of these options, and then you're gonna go into your settings. And if you go to your settings, you can see your server name is generic. We need to change that to something more, easy to remember. So we're gonna call this DCJSS AL. This is for the person that we're creating this server, but you can use your initials, and you should use it because you don't want to use DCJSS because some people will have that and then you'll have issues. So you want to put your initials in here and then click next. So after that, you will restart the server. If you have updates running, then you should wait on that to finish and then restart the server. Now I restarted my server with the name, some changes in there, updates in there. This is a good time for me to take a snapshot because I don't want to come back again to this server and have to do all of that stuff again in the lab environment. And that's where the headache will be, that you have to redo everything. So just take a snapshot before AD like that. All right, so I'm going to take a snapshot, so now I can come back to this same settings if something is messed up. I don't have to waste all that time. And now we're going to log into this server and change one more thing, and then we are ready for Active Directory in the lab environment. Now, of course, when you're doing this, you could just go straight to doing this. And with videos, sometimes it takes more time. We have to explain this to new people. But this is a very quick process, and I'll show it to you later on with the Powershell command how easy it is to do this without wasting too much time. So here I went to networking, Ethernet, and click on Ethernet. Here, change adapters. Right click, go to properties, IPv4 properties. And here we're going to keep the dynamic IP. In the real world environment, of course, this is going to be static. And I have a video, a full playlist. If you go to YouTube, how to do this in a small business environment. I have done this in a how to do this in a business environment. So here we're going to use a loop address. Okay. So and we're going to use a Google DNS just for fun. This is important because if this IP changes, then it needs to go back to whatever it is. So we're going to click OK. Close it. All right, now we are ready to install a domain controller. Now you can see here we have 5 services that are not running. So before you do that, I would like to open up, right click, start, and just wait for this to go down to, like, say 1. If there's 1 with a diagnostic or something like that, that's fine. But you just want to make sure that most of these services are running before you run a domain controller. All right, so to make a domain controller, we are going to click on Manage, Add Roles and Features. We're going to click Next, Next, and you see the name is changed. Click Next. And here we are going to click on Active Directory Domain Services. And we're going to click on Add Features. We'll click next over here and then next on the feature as well. We're not going to do anything else. Next and install. Again, a reminder for people, this is a lab environment, so we really don't do Active Directory setup the way it should be done, like a systems administration or any that type of roles required a little bit more extensive knowledge on Active Directory. And for that, we have premium membership for Practice Labs, a great solution for that kind of learning. So here we have promote this server to a domain controller. We're going to click on that. Click on Add New Forest. And here we are going to use the same naming convention. So just to verify, you can go back like that. And this was DCJSS AL. Make sure to use this type of naming, for domain name. If you have your initials, you should put something here at the end, because a lot of people are going to be using DCJSS, JSSDC, and you don't want to be having the same name. So we're just going to click next here. And this password has to be strong, not too strong, but it has to be stronger. Like it can be just 1, 2, 3, 4 type of password. So we're going to click next here, finish this, and then NetBIOS, just remember this NetBIOS. We're going to probably need this later on for labs that when we are doing help desk type of training. So you're going to see this, and we're going to need this. So, and I'll show you where you can find this again. So we're going to click next again. And we're going to click next. And this is where you can get the script of this GUI method that you just did. If you click on view script, you can actually modify that and make this totally automatic. And that's what I'm going to show you, the second method of this on how to do this. I'm going to click next here. And here we will ignore all these warnings, because again, this is a lab environment. You really don't care about these warnings. And then we're going to install this. So here you go. A lot of warnings. You're just going to click on install, and now we're going to wait for our domain controller to be installed. So once the installation is finished, your domain controller will automatically restart. Make sure in this lab or any other labs, give it some time, because that's where domain services and other things are happening to your system, and it will take a little time for it to first boot. After that, once it's booted up, you can do guest OS, and we're going to do all control delete. And here you can see we are on a domain now. Before, you only had one account and one password, and now you can do other users, and now you see you're on a domain, the DCJSS AL that you just created. So with the same password, you're going to log into this domain controller. Let's go ahead and log in. And now you're inside this domain controller with Active Directory and everything powerful that you can actually use to manage these other 2 machines in your lab. These could be your staff members, whatever you want to do, deployments, management, profiles, whatever it is. So here you can see we're going to go to tools, but make sure you kind of wait for this whole process to finish. You can see it's loading right now. So you want to let it finish, because that's how things works in servers. You need to make sure everything is running fine. So now if you come over here and you see that you have certain services coming up, and in a second you're going to see a domain services will just pop up here, and that's what it tells us to wait, because we don't see those services yet, and that's getting started. If it wasn't starting, then the first thing you should do is to come to the services here and actually see what's going on, but so far we just have to wait for it to come up. ADDS, DNS, everything came up fine. Tools. And now you're going to go to Active Directory, Users, and Computers. This is your Active Directory environment. This is very powerful for someone who's new, and that's where you kind of learn a lot of domain-connected skills. You can't learn this stuff on a normal workgroup machine because it's very limited, right? So in a real-world environment, this is where things are happening. People are getting added. People are having issues with password. People are changing their names, departments. So many things can happen from Active Directory, and now since we're in 2021, Active Directory is kind of connected to the cloud these days, which we call hybrid, and usually things are happening on Azure and Office 365, which later on we're going to cover that as well. But in this lab, I just wanted to cover Active Directory. So the first thing you should do in this Active Directory is to create a domain admin account, and you can name it Helpdesk if you want to just keep it that way. So we're going to create a Helpdesk account in Active Directory. So this Helpdesk account can then log into other machines and join the other machines to this domain. Make sure to uncheck the first box, which it says right, where it says user must change the password at the next login. Now here's a learning tip. If you're brand new and you're like, okay, how do I learn other things on Active Directory? I'm going to be working on this. We have a full course. We have a full program designed on this. So this is where you have to actually take our program on jobskillshare.org, start the program, and it kind of leads you to different skills in a very sequential method. And then we have practice labs. In that learning path, you are going to see these learning in practice labs, like Active Directory management over here, OU management. Things over here are very advanced, and not advanced as in a way that it's to scare you. It's like very perfectly done, like guidance is in there, everything is in there. So as a member, you get to enjoy this type of access from us while we do our own training as well. So let's go ahead and finish this. So you created a normal account. You need to make it a domain admin. So we're going to go to a domain admin, a member of a domain. We're going to domain. So there you go. Just type apply, OK. You must click on apply and OK. And now that Helpdesk account is added into this system. OK, so we have everything ready from a domain controller perspective and Active Directory. Things are working, right? So that's perfectly fine and done. And all you have to do after this is to go to one of these machines and then basically log into the machine and actually add one of these machines to a domain controller, because right now this machine is also on a work group. This is not a part of a domain yet. So if you go to the systems, here you see there's no domain and this machine is not named currently yet. So someone have to rename it first, and then if you want to see more information, you guys can come over here, system advanced, system settings. All this stuff is coming from like kind of older system. As you can see, this is a older layout. If you go to computer name right here, it's on a work group. It's not on a domain yet. You can change it and put it on this domain. But remember, in our work lab environment, this domain, this computer is pointing to a different DNS right now. So this domain is running its own DNS. So you need to make sure you point this machine to that domain. So let me show you what's going to happen. So if you open CMD on a domain, if you do IP config here, you see the IP address of this domain is 192.168.10.198. So if you do IP/config all, you can see that it's pointing, the DNS is pointing to itself. So that's what it means. But that's why we did that. So if this IP address changes, then it's gonna be okay. So this is the IP of the DNS, right? But here, if I come to this domain, this machine, and if I do IP config, you can see this is a different IP. And if I do all, oh, sorry, messed up all. So if I do all like that, you can see it's pointing to 10.1. So if I try to add this domain to that, this machine to that domain, it's not going to work. And let's just show you that what's going to happen. So if you had to type, so let's just see what we can type over here now. So let's go back. We're going to go back and open Active Directory. I'm going to show you how to open Active Directory now. Windows Administrative Tool, you can do it that way, one way. The second way is to open Server Manager, Tools, Active Directory Users and Computers. And here's a dcjssal.jobskillshare.com. So let's go ahead and type that, dcjssal.jobskillshare.com. And make sure you're not mistyping like me. For some reason, I can't see clearly today. So here you go. If I do this, you see clearly send me an error. If I do details and come all the way down, you see it's pointing to this DNS, which is not correct. All right, so let's log back into the domain and let's log out from that. That's the administrator account that we have created. Let's log into a Helpdesk account that we have created as a domain admin. So let's go ahead and do that. This will also let us know that is our account working. Yes, our account is working on that same domain. But if I come over here, I cannot log in as a Helpdesk right now. I just want to show you that my profile that I created, or the user that I created in Active Directory, works on this server because it's a part of that server. But if I come over here and I try to log in, there's no way for me to log into that. So how do I do that? I really need to add that, add this DNS for it to work first, because I need to join that. So if I come over here and I do the IP config again, I need to put this IP address 192.168.10.198 into the DNS of this machine. Now you must be thinking, if I have 500 machines and you're brand new to a technology, you'll be like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And that's why I say that this is done in the lab environment. In the real environment, it's done from a network. And that's something I have shown in my playlist on YouTube. There's a big video on how to configure a whole network, and then you will understand a whole picture. But for this point, you just need to kind of play around with these two machines so you can do your helpdesk related skills, right? So we're going to go to the properties of this Ethernet, go to IPv4, and we're going to change this IP address 192.168.10. This was 98. So, and here you can also use the 888 Google DNS. So once you do this, then let's see what happens. There you go. So that's what I was actually talking about, that now this machine can talk to this machine because it's routed that way. Before it didn't know who are you, why are you even providing these services. Now it says, yes, you are there, I know you are providing these domain services, can I be a part of your domain? Yes. Let's just go ahead and put that admin password that we have created as a help desk. And this is what you do in most of the companies, and probably 100% of, I would say 99%. If you're an Active Directory environment, you have to actually do this part. So this is where you really, really need to learn. Go back to Practice Lab or courses, learn it through the guided way then, because then you're going to learn a lot more Active Directory specifics, like Active Directory, coming down, administrating Active Directory, auditing, OUs, users and groups, adding a user's multiple ways, PowerShell way, so many different ways you can learn this. But that's just one course we're talking about, one lab. There are so many labs that you can just go advance into this system. I think it's one of the best system for people who want to do career development, skills development. So here, if I click OK now, welcome to that domain. We're done. We're going to click, you must restart this machine. And we're going to restart this machine. If you want to confirm, you can come over here, go to users and computers, and go to computers, and there you go. This is our desktop. I should have named it yes, but of course we can always go back and fix this. So that's something that I wanted to show how it's done on a GUI method, everything like that. Next, what I'm going to show you in this video, we're going to remove all this and install a whole domain controller from a PowerShell. And then I'm going to show you how to unjoin this machine and join it back to a domain controller, because this is going to be messed up, because right now it's a part of this domain, but when we remove this domain, this machine is locked out unless you have a local admin to get in. Okay, so right now we're going to close this one. And how do we do this? In a lab environment, that's the beauty of lab environment, that whatever you create, you can totally destroy it and not worry about it, right? So that's exactly what we are going to do. I'm not even going to shut down, just to show you how this can be done in labs. Don't worry about it, because this is something you're learning. So just turn it off like that. Let's go ahead, turn off the domain controller like that. And that's the power of snapshots. This is where I'm going to save a lot of time to just go back to where I left, right? So I'm not going to install all those updates and everything. Just wanting to show you how quickly these labs can turn your skills into something very practical. You go to the manage snapshots, and before 82, I made that snapshot, right? I click on the restore, and that's it, boom. Just in few seconds, I went back to where I wanted to be back without any Active Directory. So let's just confirm that. So there you go. You see how quickly it's coming up now, and I'm going to click on. There you go. No domain controller, in single snapshot, a few seconds, boom, gone. We're going to go ahead and log in again. And you will see that it's going to open up faster than normal. So you see how it's coming up. That's the reason I'm telling that domain services are going to be slower than not a domain server. So now you're seeing this and like, okay, how do we do this on a PowerShell method? Okay, so in lab environment, this is pretty easy. I already gave you a script that how you guys can generate the script. In this lab environment, we have made it super easy for you. So all you have to do is you're going to first make sure that, do we have the name in there? which is correct. DC, JSS, AL, that's what we wanted, right? So we're going to close everything. We're not going to use anything from here now. But one thing I do want to kind of come back is this services, right? So we're going to click on these services and we're going to just click on start. Usually that doesn't happen. Most of the time you will not see this. Okay, so we'll just wait for these services to be okay, and then we're going to open PowerShell. All right, so for PowerShell, what you need to do is to go to search and type power, but you're not opening a normal PowerShell over here. You're going to open this one where it says Windows PowerShell ISE integrated scripting environment. Okay, so you're going to open that as an administrator, run as an administrator. And the second thing you need to do in this right now is to open a start, go to server manager. So for now, we're going to minimize ISE and then go back to this. When you go back to server, you're going to click on local server. And here we are going to see our IE settings. It's turned on. We're going to have to turn it off. It's just annoying when you have that turned on and while we're doing this in the lab. Now, don't do this in production environment. Again, that's just a warning that's not how things are done. You just need to type that PowerShell. You need to somehow get it, and I'll put that in description as well. So you're going to open your IE right here in this lab environment, ask me later, and you're going to type an IP address over here with a port. All right, just like that. 192.168.10.212 basically 8080 port, right? So this is where our HTTP file server is running. So when you click on it, you can see you're going to get to this little page right here. Click on ADPS. If you click on it, that's your PowerShell right there. So the reason I'm doing it this way in the lab is because you need this. And I mean, of course, you're not going to be able to copy paste from your YouTube videos to the virtual environment. So you need this kind of access. But in your home environment or whatever you're doing, you need to really get this somehow, okay? So all you have to do is to copy this whole script like that. Now, once you copy this script, you need to do some changes. So let's go ahead and open Notepad, because of course this script is generic, and that's why you need to be very careful with scripting, because it can change a lot of things, right? The first thing is that you notice this is not right. This because when we were using that web tool, it changed that key to this. So we need to make sure that that's changed to the underscore key, but you're not actually using shift in that, okay? So here you can see that we have certain things in here. Now let's check if we have, what's our Ethernet set to. Did we set that up in this snapshot? Do we really need to do that line? Let's go ahead and see that. So yes, you can see in our server, we don't have a DNS setup. So that's what we need to set up here as well. So we're going to do that from the script. And now if you look at it, we are using JSS, DC JSS. So we're going to do DC JSS. And we're using AL as initials. So make sure this is your initials right here. And here we're going to use that as well. DC JSS, and we're going to use AL0. All right, so if our script have some problem, we're going to see that in a second, but you're only going to install it from where it begins, installed all the way to the bottom. You're installing the feature just like you did in the GUI. You're deploying the ADDS deployment, then you're changing these IP addresses, just what you did manually. And then you're going to install AD Forest. You're going to name this as a domain, and that's what we're going to use, that PowerShell ISE. Let's go ahead and open PowerShell ISE again. Right click, go to administrator. And we're going to right click, paste that, and now we're going to enter. There you go. Collecting data, things are happening. And that's why I like to use ISE, because you can see everything is happening, and it's going to, it's a little GUI involved in there. And of course, it's not 100% PowerShell. You could make it 100% PowerShell by making it a fully script. But I want to show you what happens there. This tells you right there in a nice way, starting installation, and it's going to prompt for a password, things like that, and you're going to see that in a second. All right, so now you can see it says success, but that's where the password was. Remember, we add that password in GUI. It's gonna still ask you for that password. So if this is a weak password, 12345, it's not gonna work. So we're gonna click OK, confirm the password. All right. So same warnings that you saw on the GUI, you can actually see it over here as well. Creating Active Directory objects, everything is showing up right now. Seems like everything is working. All right, so you see the same option. Everything is finished. And if you take my talking out of this video, this would take only like 3 minutes. The whole video would be 3 minutes. And now we're gonna basically say close, and now it's gonna get restarted. The whole domain controller will start again the way it was. But remember, we removed this machine from that first domain. So now we got a problem. So let's see if we can learn this skill as well. How to unjoin a machine from a domain, rejoin it to this new one. So while the new domain controller is coming up, let's go ahead and see what's going to happen to this machine. And that's exactly where you're going to come in and kind of like, you know, one day you're going to come to work and someone complain about this. So let's go ahead and see if we can log in with the Helpdesk account. Oh, there you go. We can sign in with the credentials because your domain isn't available. That's exactly what you get in a normal companies. Sometimes computer gets dropped from the domain. So how can you get into this? Because your domain account, admin account, can't do anything. Now this is where we teach this stuff in our IT fundamental course, technical V1.0 course, MD 100 course. That's the part of our learning path. These tiny main things has to be learned in a process, and that's where you're going to be very less stressful. So we're going to click on stop sign, the backslash. I always think it's like / backslash right above the enter key. And here you go. You see that the name of this machine just pops up. You already know the name. So here you need to be an admin. You need to know that local admin account, or you need to break into this machine, which we also have that on Jobskillshare. We're not going to do that in this video, but assume you're an admin here. Okay, so an admin account over here, and now you need to give it a password. So I hope I remember the password to this machine. This is how you resolve this type of issues in a normal way. You can go a little bit more advanced in things, but keep it basic in the beginning. People expect this type of things from you in the interviews, or at least to solve the issue right now. It doesn't matter how advanced you fix this issue as long as you fix the issue in this career. So now you come over here and you see that, okay, this machine was a part of a domain. It's not working. How do we unjoin the machine from a domain now? Right? You learn this in practice labs environment that we have in a small videos, like lab videos. Right now you have a chance to actually do this in a proper full flow now. So here you're going to come back to the same settings, advanced settings, computer name, change, and that domain doesn't even exist anymore. So can we change this directly from here? Yeah, it's possible. A lot of people would like to unjoin it from the work group and then do it that way, but it's going to have you restart anyway. So I'm just going to click OK here, and you can see if you go to details, let's see what happens. There's no host. I cannot even try this. It's not even working. So is this correctly working? Why is it not even doing anything? So first we need to now figure out, is this domain even running? At this point, the new domain is still not running because it's applying that settings. And that's why I say that in the beginning, when you create a brand new domain controller, especially in the lab environment, since DNS and things are not done correctly, you will have to wait for this stuff. And even in a normal environment, you have to wait actually. So as we speak, we're going to have to come back over here and actually check everything now. So let's log in to this new domain. A domain created with PowerShell ISE with just one password that we have to put in there. This is how easy it is to create a domain controller. Again, if you are tired of creating domain controllers again and again in lab environments. Now, I still wouldn't do, if I come over here and try that again, it works. But I would wait till it fully shows you that ADDNS. It's just because these services are starting right now. So even if you try to add it, somehow things can get screwed up. So you don't want to do that in a real environment. Real environment every day. I mean, in a real environment, 24/7. I feel like this will always be running because there's redundancy. There are different DC1, DC2. Some people have even more. So you wouldn't come across this issue. But again, that's very important. So if I wanted to add that same account here, what will happen? Let's see. It's not going to work. The reason is simple. And that's why I wanted to prove it to you guys that you have to have an account on Active Directory for it to work. So let's go back in here. And there you go. We don't have a Helpdesk account here. So we have to actually add a Helpdesk account. Now I'm going to show you this way. You can do it from here. You can do it from here. Helpdesk. Same thing. I'm going to uncheck it. A reminder again, you need to learn this stuff from course and lab environment, practice lab. Then you will learn this stuff. Once you add it, yes, we need to give it domain admin rights so then we can do a lot of things. I'm always having issues with typing, so forgive me on that. Here you go. So now we added this. We're going to come back here. We're going to try it one more time. Okay, so DNS, everything is looking good, but it's prompting and everything is looking good. The IP address is pointing back to that server. No problem with that. So let's go ahead, and now the second thing we need to do is to put it back on a work group, and we're going to restart this machine and then try this again one more time. Remember, restarting should be, if you are like so here you can use the same password like this, even though that domain doesn't exist, but it's gonna work. And you know, you can see that there's no domain, but still it worked. So I'm gonna go ahead and restart this server machine. And one of the things that I want to suggest to the new people is that if you're new to IT, make sure something like that, if you see 1 or 2 times errors, restart that machine, because a lot of things can get resolved. I know it's a very basic thing, but we forget it. We spend a lot of hours. You may even break things more than just restarting the machine. So once you remove that machine from the domain, you can see it comes back to its normal local profile. All right, so let's go ahead and add it back to the domain. Now that's not the only way to add a machine to a domain. It's just that I like this method. There are much easier methods, but this is the one that I always use. And you guys can search domain work. There's a lot of ways to do this, okay? Computer name, change, domain, and here dcjss al.jobskillshare.org. Is it prompting? Yes. So it's responding. The following error occurred attempting to join the machine to a domain. The password is not correct. Okay. So what else can be happening over here? Is there a way we can use a second account over here? Yeah, you can give it a try. If it works, let's see. Just so we can make sure that this is not an account issue now. Look at that. So the Helpdesk before, when we added this machine, was a part of a different domain. So somehow it kind of messed up this machine in a way, because you have given the same SSID. So this machine had some type of SSID, some type of access from an older machine. It wouldn't let it work. So for this, of course, you can do a lot of cache clearing, things like that to work. But a very quick way to just find out things. If one account is not working, try a different account. If one way is not working, did you restart the machine? Did you check the domain controller services they are running or not? Is the machines up and running? All these type of things should be the scenarios coming into your head, and this is where things can really, change for you technically. Learning these skills, this is what we do on daily basis. I can spend 15 years in this career, but still I'm going to have to come across these layers of troubleshootings, and one work I know because I have done it. If one doesn't work, I'm going to try another one. If I fail everything, I'm going to go to Google. If Google fails me, then I'm going to ask my coworkers. Maybe if I'm cool with my coworkers, I'll ask them first. So there's a lot of ways you can fix the issue. So that's done. We are on that domain controller now. Let's go back to the domain controller. Verify that desktop is there right now. You can see it. It's here. So that's it for this video. We have covered a lot of things, and I'm going to share a slide. What did we cover in this lab? In this one lab, we have covered ESXi, server setup, updates, VMware tools, snapshots, Active Directory GUI, Active Directory PSICE, joining a machine, unjoining a machine, troubleshooting, where to practice next. Now, the most important thing about this lab is that it will teach you patience. It will teach you how to follow documentation. If you're new, you're watching my video. That's your documentation. If you're new, you're going to work with your patience, because in IT, the most important thing in this is that it doesn't work like this. When you sit down and you kind of do everything on your own, you have to work with a team, projects. So, and updates and things like that takes time. So prepare yourself, train yourself to be patient when it comes to technology. Okay. The next thing is that, of course, where do you actually practice now more? Because this first lab is a barrier breaking for you. It should be something for a lot of newcomers to, okay, that's how things are done. I have a way to break things now. I have a way to kind of follow something. So then I know how things are created from the basics. I can practice like that in this environment, in this platform. Where do I go now next so I can do career development for a long time? Because in IT, you don't do just one lab and become an IT professional. You are going to be actually doing a lot of different labs. A lot of confidence has to be there, and that's where our program can really, really change things for you. So if you're new to our program, go to jobskillshare.org. We have designed a program with a pretty well-known leaders out there. They have labs, we have content, we have labs, and kind of like a mixed up environment with the real world scenarios, hands-on equipment, so much that we can offer you. And once you finish everything, you will feel like you are an engineer that have worked in a company for 6 months, because that's how we actually give projects. So that's how things are designed. A lot of times people get a job, they do repetitive tasks, they can't move up, and they don't have opportunity to learn these things. We are doing that for you. So you're going to register. Once you register, simply you will come to this nice dashboard, easy way to follow things. You're going to come over here and in the community dashboard, click on Get Certification. And this is a kind of combination of multiple courses where you have this program that you're going to learn ticketing system, Active Directory, Office 365, deployments, imaging. Everything right here is in this Start Self-Paced program. When you click on it, you have courses, stepwise courses. Step 1, watch this video and then start the course over here. So once you learn the courses like that, that's where a lot of these little things that you have covered over here will be covered. And once the smaller things are covered that way, then you go into more advanced courses like step 2, step 3, step 4 goes into systems administration a little bit. So once you get out of this first program, you are actually an IT pro. You can actually land a job any level in IT support area. And then after this, you can only move up to systems administration, where we are covering cloud and different technologies right now. And this is an easy platform. Once you start a course, you can go back to the dashboard. Here you have 2 ways to get back to the course. You can scroll down, and this is where your course status will show. You can click on continue course, and it's going to take you directly to the course. Or you can go up and click on course dashboard, and here you can click on the course again to get into the course like that very, very quickly. And now you're inside the course. So it's very easy to use. Go back to the platform again with the portal, and once something like labs are given, our labs are right here, practice labs. This is where I say that this is where you need to continue your practical training with guided platform then. And that's what we give out in this whole program, premium access. If you are still confused, make sure to click on this WhatsApp, leave us a voicemail, send us a text, or for consultation, you want to schedule something, you can click on consulting form right here, fill this out, and then we will get back to you. And I hope that you like this video. I hope if you feel like you want to use these servers, contact our support. We're going to give you, our prices are very good. And once we give you this server, you can actually follow my video exactly the same way. And then after this, I suggest you to go to our YouTube channel. There's another great YouTuber who's our partner, KevTech. His videos are great for this type of labs. Make sure to use his videos and implement it right here so you can use this type of learning. This is going to be a pretty great experience for a lot of new people, and I hope you like this video. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care.